Hey everyone, today I want to talk about Snatch from the year 2000 by Guy Ritchie. This is the 29th episode of my 1000 favorite movie series, where I talk about the movies I love the most in a random order. I've loved movies for as long as I can remember, but my viewing habits have changed drastically over time. Nowadays, there's so many movies on my watch list, both new and rewatches, and so many movies I love that I usually move from one movie to the next very quickly. But high school was the opposite, where the number of movies I loved was much smaller, and I wasn't really that motivated to watch many movies I hadn't seen before, so I tended to watch the same movies over and over again. And thus, I went through many phases in high school where I'd watch the same movie countless times and never get tired of it. Snatch was one of those phases. I discovered it sometime late in high school, I think, and it just became an obsession that I couldn't get enough of. Even though it's not the most substantial movie ever made, it remains lots of fun today when I feel like I want to get deep into a complicated yet fun plot with memorable characters. The story is complicated, but the genius part about it is that there are kind of two parallel stories, one of which is easy to follow, while the other requires you to be on your feet. The easy one follows the gangsters Turkish and Tommy, played by Jason Statham and Stephen Graham, who manage a boxer called Gorgeous George in an unlicensed boxing ring. One of the hotshots of underground boxing, Bricktop, wants the boxer to go down to the fourth for him, but in a very amusing turn of events, Tommy puts him in a bare knuckle fight with a much smaller gypsy played by Brad Pitt, who knocks him out in one punch. They now have to deal with Brad Pitt and convince him to join the ring, or else they'll be in big trouble. This plot strand is fairly straightforward, but it's in contrast to the other half of the movie, which revolves around a huge stolen diamond that basically everyone wants. This involves many different characters, starting with Frankie Fourfingers, played by Benicio del Toro, who stole the diamond in the first place, and then Cousin Avi, played by Dennis Farina, his partner Doug the Head, Vincent and Solomon, who run a pawn shop, an unhinged arms dealer called Boris the Blade, alternatively Boris the Bullet Dodger, another gangster called Bullet Tooth Tony, and even Bricktop gets involved. The diamond changes hands a lot, with it sometimes being difficult to keep track of who has it, but also generally what's going on if you're not paying close attention. There are even ellipses in the story, like when Boris comes to Doug and Avi's jewelry store. He is downstairs on the security camera, and the next minute he's in the trunk of the car with the bodyguard all beat up bleeding. I guess after having fought Boris, which we didn't see. He soon escapes the trunk of the car, but immediately gets run over. You'd think that'd be it for him, but no, the next minute he's up and grabbing a machine gun and finding himself in a standoff for the stone. There's also this scene after Vinny and Soul kidnap Frankie, who has the diamond in the case. When talking to Boris, Vinny shows him the diamond, so he clearly took it out of the case. A few seconds later, Boris shoots Frankie in the head, but they say the diamond's in the case, and he just shot the only man who knew the combination. But wait, the diamond was just out of the case, wasn't it? How is it all of a sudden back in the case? I always found this weird until I realized that he did put it back in the case, but the shot of him doing this only lasts about 2 seconds, so I never noticed this before. So that answers that question. But wait, why did he put it back in the case? And if they don't know the combination to the case, how did they get the diamond out in the first place? Did I miss something here? I guess the point is that it can be difficult to make the different points in the plot add up, but at least this makes one sit up and pay attention more on rewatch, which, if you're anything like how I was in high school, you'll want to. And why would you want to rewatch this movie? Because not only is it very stylish, but it's also really funny. From the beginning, where we see the thieves disguised as rabbis enter the office through the very security TVs, it's clear that style was on Guy Ritchie's mind when he made this. There's another memorable sequence where dogs chasing a hare is intercut with gangsters capturing a guy called Tyrone, which works because of the parallel situations. Many times, these stylish sequences are done hand in hand with comedy and music, which was a big driving factor of why I took to this movie. The first sequence that comes to mind in this regard is when Brad Pitt knocks out Gorgeous George, and the camera zooms out while spiraling over his passed out body. The music sounds a bit carnivalesque, and the whole shot is just funny as a result. Funny because of the camera movement and the song, but also because of the fact that this big guy just got unexpectedly knocked out of nowhere. There are also moments that wouldn't have been funny otherwise that kind of become funny because of the music. Like the scene near the beginning where Bricktop kills two gangsters, which has a castanet inflected tune to lighten the mood. But most of the humor comes from the dialogue, as delivered by the characters. Every character speaks in sort of a unique way, from Statham's low, sarcastic tone, to Bricktop's teeth-baring emphasizing, to Brad Pitt's semi-ridiculous accent, which makes him ironically the most difficult character to understand, to Vinny's constant complaining and correcting the record, to Del Toro's overly mellow voice. Most of the dialogue isn't particularly quotable, but it does have a healthy amount of British wit, and when these colorful characters say them, it makes almost the entire movie fun to listen to. For example, when Avi asks Tony why they call Boris the bullet dodger, Tony replies, "'Cause he dodges bullets, Avi." Not too funny of a line by itself, but it becomes funny in Tony's delivery. By the way, if I had to pick my favorite characters, they'd be the duo of Vincent and Solomon. Even though they reside comfortably on the wrong side of the law, they strike me as the most innocent characters in the movie, practically becoming the ones you root for the most. They kind of have the worst luck as well, with a string of people constantly coming to their shop and causing trouble, and them always being outgunned, sort of making them lovable losers. Their back and forth banter is also entertaining, so I'm always happy when they're on screen. But speaking of favorites, let me talk about my favorite moments. The first comes at the beginning, when we're given a high energy and comedic montage introducing all of the characters. They passings to each other, showing us a relationship to one another in a way, but mostly as a nice way to connect all of them. I also love the big, bold titles telling us who everyone is, which is effective at letting us know who everyone is right off the bat, and actually making it easy for us to remember their names. Another moment is a scene where Avi and Doug the Head are talking to each other on the phone, and right away from the start of the scene, I love how it's a close-up of both of them twitching their feet. Doug wearing British socks, and Avi with an American coffee mug. When Doug tells him that Frankie is going to a fight, he stops twitching his feet in shock, which is a nice piece of visual storytelling. After they argue for a bit, Avi yells that he's coming to London, and we get a fun, quick edit of him slamming the phone on the receiver, a taxi door closing, him taking medication, the plane taking off, the immigration stamp, and a taxi arriving. Doug greets him, and Avi responds, "Shut up and sit down, you big bald fart." Except not fart. This is probably the funniest edit in the movie, because in less than 5 seconds he's in London, and he instantly insults him. The comedic timing is perfect. In fact, it's so good that it's repeated 2 more times in the movie. The second time is almost as funny as the first time, when a customs officer asks, "Anything to declare?" and he says, "Yeah, don't go to England." Finally, I love the final boxing match with Brad Pitt and some guy. He's supposed to go down in the 4th round, but considering he's known for knocking guys out with one punch, he finds this difficult. At one point he's getting pummeled, and we hear many strange animal noises, along with stylish uses of slow motion. But the best part is that later when he gets punched in the air, he slowly flies in the air and the cinematography changes. I don't know exactly what's happened, but somehow the whole image looks like something out of a poster or some artsy advertisement or something, especially when we look at the other fighter's face and body just at the edge of the frame. Then Brad Pitt falls in water, and now it looks like something right out of a drowning public service announcement, and he can now somehow watch his own fight on top of him on the surface. Aside from Raging Bull, this is probably the most stylized boxing match I've ever seen, and it serves as a fitting climax for the movie. But in the end, what I love about Snatch is that while I wouldn't call it a masterpiece or anything, as an example of stylish, contemporary comedic crime dramas, there probably aren't too many better ones around. I suppose what I value the most out of it is its colorful characters saying colorful things, with a plot that, while geniusly remaining basically easy to follow, is complicated enough to encourage multiple viewings, which I certainly did a lot of when I was younger. It's one of my 1,000 favorite movies. Thanks for watching my video. Goshoujo makoto ne arigatou gozaimasu. Have you seen Snatch? Let me know what you think in the comments. I think of all of my favorite movies as friends, and I think of my audience as friends too. Remember, I upload a new video every Friday, so if you want to help me complete this 1,000 favorite movies epic, don't forget to like and subscribe.